What's up, everybody? It is the Best Spot Get Smooth, and I'm back with another video. And today we're going to be talking Bungie and Sony. Yes, Bungie is pretty much is about to experience a full takeover. You guys probably asking, well, weren't they acquired by Sony, a few years ago? Yes, Sony did acquire them, but in their acquisition, they made it such a big deal that Bungie remain independent and they'll keep their board. They'll still publish games multi-platform. Apparently, I'm not sure. I don't have the contract. I'm not going to pretend to talk that I have their contract with me of what conditions Bungie and Sony agreed to, because I don't. But I can only go what was publicly known, what they publicly said. But what's being reported is that, if Bungie does not maintain its, sales or its revenue, Sony can ultimately dissolve the board and take full control. And that's what's taking place now, as Bungie is operating 45% below its revenues, and they've been going through some trouble. Obviously, there have been delays to Destiny 2 expansion. There's been hiring freeze. There's been layoffs that's been coming out, and now the report is that Sony could take complete control of the studio if it fails to meet its financial targets, and it's looking like they're going to fail to meet their financial targets. So what this means is that everything that they put out in the public and everything, like, oh, they're going to remain independent. Right now, it's Bungie, their subsidiary Sony, but they have their own board and whatnot, and they're able to operate independently. And right now, that board can get wiped out, and it's going to be all Sony. So on Twitter, you got a lot of people looking at this, and some people are happy because they are only thinking it from like an exclusive. Oh, now they can fully be part of Sony and they'll have exclusives, and people are like, shame on Bungie for not wanting to be fully under Sony and whatnot. And it's crazy, the things like this happens. This happens, all the time. And here I'm going to come in with my Xbox comparison. Obviously, if this was reversed and let's say this was Xbox, and who did they recently buy? Let's say this was Xbox and maybe, I don't know, maybe not ZeniMax, maybe ZeniMax Online, or maybe Obsidian. They had this random like sort of thing, or maybe Mojang or something like that. Everybody would be, going after Microsoft and Xbox's neck, you know what I mean? Because like, oh my God, the big corporals there with their hostile takeover and all this other stuff. This time people are kind of shaming Bungie, and shame on Bungie for doing this. How I look at it is that the way I read this report, if they had this agreement where if their sales fall below this, then they put themselves at risk for a full takeover, and all this PR consider regarding their acquisition is just bullish, and what makes it pointless. I think two things are going on. I think either Sony has bamboozled Bungie, or Bungie is just foolish. Because you got to factor this in. PlayStation acquired Bungie about a few weeks after Microsoft announced its intent to acquire Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard was a $69 billion deal. The Bungie deal was $3 billion, which I thought was ultra expensive, and they added another billion to retain staff, which they're already bleeding staff and laying off people. Matter of fact, they laid off people. I'm like, well, what was the point of the extra $1 billion, right? So so that thing is my question is, this happened in 2022, January 22, first quarter of 22. And the thing about it is that at the time they acquired, it's not like Bungie puts out games annually, or like they're releasing a bunch of games. No, they put out since they've been away from Xbox, and they partner. They've literally, since they've been on their own and been with Activision, they've released 2 games and a bunch of expansions to those games, and that's Destiny and Destiny 2. Destiny 2 has come out in 2017, and then a year or two later, they parted ways with Activision Blizzard, if I'm not mistaken. And then they was independent for another 3 years, and then they get acquired by Sony. But think about the timeline. So, Destiny 2 comes out in 2017. They've had many expansions, but if you look at the timeline, we're at the end of life cycle for Destiny 2. I think they got one more major expansion coming. And the player count is dwindling. So you bought them at a time where they're not putting, it's not like they got a major game on the horizon. Sure, they announced a new game Marathon at the PlayStation showcase, which I think is, I don't know when it's coming out, if it's next year or the year after that or whatever. But they're not, so the thing is, Sony probably knew that they weren't going to maintain the level of income over the course of the next few years, considering that at the time that they bought them and all that Bungie has working, Bungie literally only has Destiny 2 working for it, right? So you do that, and then you assist them in their troubles by, the hiring freeze and the layoffs and the delays or whatever they're working on, assigning them to other properties and them acting as a liaison for other first-party studios to release or not to release multiplayer games and whatnot because they're the experts. So to me, I feel like this is blowing up in everybody's face. Now, prior to the Activision deal, prior to the Sony deal, Bungie was in talks with Microsoft. It was heavily rumored. They came out and got ahead of it. It was like, no, but it was true that they were in talks. And I think the rumor got out that Bungie was asking too much. And apparently the too much they were asking for, Sony thought it was worth it. Microsoft didn't think it was worth it. But at the end of the day, obviously the money heads is going to go where the money's at. That's the head people at Bungie. The core team, the development team is going to go where they want to obviously make games and they want a good work environment. And since they've been under Sony, that's all been deteriorating. All the people that made their money, they're heading for the doors, and all the people that's left, they're really going to have to just sit down and get absorbed by Sony, or they can bounce. But the thing is, it's not looking pretty over there. And then that's why you can't buy into all the PR stuff that they talk about with the whole acquisition being about independence and they be able to self-publish. All that stuff is going out the window because when Sony acquires studios and development teams and talent, it's not like how Microsoft does it. When they do it, they're doing it to close people out. It's because the thing is, until Sony adopts a business model that's about selling games and not consoles and selling other things other than consoles, they need to get people to buy the console. So that marathon, which was advertises, if Sony can definitely pull that away, especially if they feel threatened about this Activision deal. It is what it is. That can potentially happen. They can stop supporting the Xbox version, and these are things that I expect them or I anticipate them to do when they do a full takeover, because with Bungie operating as an independent, they would just continue to do games as is, support all platforms. Sony, on the other hand, no, they're gonna wipe out the other platforms. They will support PlayStation first, and then or unless it makes sense for them to do PC simultaneously, and that's pretty much what's happening. So what's happening on X Twitter platform is that you got PlayStation fanboys looking at this as a good thing and celebrating this because it means Bungie will be a proper first-party studio and Bungie will make exclusive for PlayStation. But they're not looking at the flip side as how this impact morale, how it impact the culture at the studio, and that's going to lead to a lot of turnover, a lot of changes, and the Bungie that they think they're about to get, they're going to get something completely something completely different. And $3 billion is a lot of money to just spend on something just to have a name, oh, we got the creators of Halo. But that's my take on the video. I think Bungie probably should have probably. I can confidently say this: if Bungie would have signed with Xbox and Microsoft, they wouldn't be in this position, right? They would have been encouraged to do what they typically do. Microsoft has acquired live service games and stuff like that, and they just kind of just do what they do. You don't hear these rumblings from ZeniMax Online. You don't hear these rumblings from Mojang. Sure, layoffs happen everywhere and stuff like that, but There's no full control takeover. I mean, Microsoft has full control or whatever, but it's nothing where they're threatening how they operate. You know what I mean? So I can wholeheartedly say, I can confidently say 100% that if Bungie was with Microsoft, this would not be a thing. Would the layoffs happen? Probably. Layoffs happen everywhere, especially in the tech industry. But this situation, them not like, no, their destiny, they're going to be doing, they'll be able to support it and probably get more support to do it, more incentive to do it. Their marathon, everything, all that stuff, they will be able to do what they want to do. And Microsoft has enough live service teams where they don't need Bungie to teach them how to release live service games. But that's the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see you guys on the next video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys later. As always, Xbox is the best box. I am the best bot. Good night or good morning if you're on the other side of the globe. I'm out of here. Peace.